All right, let's move on to the defending champions, the Houston Astros, defending champs, multiple consecutive ALCS trips as well over the past few years. I mean, truly, it's hard to beat the Astros, Sean. There's no doubt about it. But there are some questions here that we can go in. I think the first thing that we can talk about right off the bat is that they lost Justin Verlander. If I would have talked about them losing Justin Verlander in the offseason last year, I don't think it would have seemed like that big of a deal. But the season he had last year was absolutely incredible. Probably one of the best performances we have ever seen by a pitcher after Tommy John. I mean, it was good enough to win the Cy Young. Absolutely incredible. It's a huge loss for the Astros rotation. And it's crazy to say for a 38-year-old or 40-year-old. Sorry. So how big of an impact will we see from it right away? That's my question.
Yeah, I don't know that you'll notice it right away. But if this rotation starts to scuffle, then there will be a noticeable difference. I think that's the key here, right? Is that this rotation has a lot of upside, but it's not proven. And so anytime you move out a Justin Verlander-esque pitcher, you're going to take a step backward. The Astros are likely hoping that that's mitigated by the upside, but I don't see it. And I just did a quick comparison looking at ERA and FWAR between them. So Verlander takes his 3.36 and 4 FWAR with him. It's not good after that. Framber Valdez 3.24 with 3.7 wins. Christian Javier 4 ERA, 2.3 wins. Luis Garcia, 4.13 ERA, 1.9 wins. Jose Urquidy, 461 with a 1.1 win. And then Lance McCullers at 388 with a 1.8 wins. Like, this is a rotation that is okay, has the ability to be really good, but on paper, it's just okay. And so losing a Verlander, it may not show up right away, but they'll miss it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm not just saying that as Justin Verlander being a graduate from Old Dominion University, even though that is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. But Justin Verlander is going to be really missed. But I do think that rotation will be good. I think that you can't count out Houston at any point this season, even if the rotation falters just a little bit. I do think that they're going to see a little bit of impact early in the season. Hopefully they can figure it out in spring training, get the right answers. But even so, I think they might find a little bit of woes early, but they'll figure it out. We've seen them be able to regroup and do great things with this squad. They did add some really interesting pieces in free agency. Let's start with Jose Abreu. I think that's probably the biggest addition for Houston. There was a glaring need at first base last season. It's finally been met, in my opinion. How will Jose do without being the face of the franchise? For years, he was the face of the Chicago White Sox. He's not going to have to be that guy in Houston. That's Jose Altuve. That's Alex Bregman. Honestly, that's just, he's not in that order at all. He's not going to have to worry about doing that for the city of Houston. That's got to be a nice relief, and he can focus a little more on baseball.
Yeah, he doesn't have to wear a paper bag to work, knowing that he was working for the White Sox. I think it's great. No, but in all seriousness, I think he gets a chance to kind of just play, at this point in his career. He gets to just come in, play the game, put up his numbers, his rather nice numbers, let's be clear. But at 35 years old, he can just come in, go to work, and not have to worry about anything else other than just go and do my job because everybody else will take the attention. But when he does his job, I think he completes this offense in a way that is actually very scary for their opponents. So this was one of probably the best moves of the offseason, is them picking up Jose Abreu. And there was a lot of moves made this offseason, but I think this will kind of prove to be one of the best, but certainly the most underrated, because he may not even get noticed in that lineup.
Which is wild, because we're talking about a former American League MVP, and then we're saying how he might not even be noticed in this lineup. That's how great this lineup is. Yeah. One of the players that is really great, and he's just starting to be noticed, I think, over the last 2 years for sure, Kyle Tucker. People are starting to find out about him over the last 2 seasons, 30 home runs in each season. I mean, he has been under the radar good in 2021, and in 2022, I would say was his coming out party, if you will. He had a great season last year and the year before. What do you think we can expect from him this coming season? Are we going to see another 30-run season? I mean, it seems like the trend is in his alley right there.
Oh yeah, he's not flying under anybody's radar anymore, ever. He's here, and in all honesty, the projections are actually expected for a little bit more than what we saw
Mm.
last year, which is just kind of crazy to think about it. But his like projections are 33 home runs, 20 stolen bases, weighted runs created plus a 148, 5 wins above replacement, OPS of 880. Like this kid is, man, no longer under the radar, and Kyle Tucker has all the talent in the world, and I think those projections may prove actually to be a little light.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm excited to see him play. I mean, if he can go over 30 home runs, that'd be electric. It's wild thinking about Kyle Tucker in the last 2 years, how he's done, because there was a big question mark when George Springer left and headed to Toronto, and who's going to replace him? Was Kyle Tucker going to be good enough? We are seeing that is obviously the case. That is not a problem for Houston. There's really not a glaring need in the outfield for them because of Kyle Tucker. So, really nice thing for Houston to have. This is why we saw them in the World Series. We saw so many players step up the last 2 years to get back to ALCS over and over again. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see them right back in the picture again, because that's what we've seen over the past, 6, 7 years, them at least make it to the ALCS. So with the shift restriction coming in 2023, I think this is a really interesting question. And then the shift restriction is going to be I feel like we're going to be able to write articles on this over and over again for all of March and April. I think, well, all of April, since the opening day is March 30th. But for all of April, I think that's what everybody's going to be talking about, is how the shift restrictions really just either messing or improving. We're going to start seeing new superstars come out because they're not doing anything. Joey Gallo's probably going to have a awakening, right? But regardless, with the shift restriction coming in 2023, the Astros seem to be in pretty good position. We kind of talked about this before on the bonus episodes with the middle infielders being at an absolute premium. Well, Jose Altuve, although he's getting a little older, he's one of the best defenders in the league still. And then you got Pena. And Pena is just electric what he's done in his rookie season last year. Both of those covering the middle of the infield. How will the rookie sensation look in year two? Let's focus on Pena. I think he obviously is set for some great seasons ahead. And again, another thing where they were worried who will replace Carlos Correa. Doesn't seem like that's a worry anymore.
No, and he's a different player than Correa is too. I think that's an interesting little note, right? Like he's got all the power that Correa has, maybe a little bit less, but it's there, and he plays great defense. But overall, the game is, if he can figure out how to walk at a rate that's not 4%, 3.9 last year, that's yikes. Obviously you're swinging, which is fine. Some people, their game is that's what their game is. And I'm not going to, certainly I'm not going to sit Jeremy Pena if he's on my roster just because he's a free swinger. But if you're looking at projections, that's what you're going to get, right? And if you're the Houston Astros, you're thrilled. You're thrilled because you're not paying Carlos Correa money. And you don't have to deal with a phantom 2014 injury anymore.
That's right. Yeah, wild, right? You got to think that the walk rate will improve. That seems like, strikeout rates sometimes are harder to decline, but walk rate, you can teach patience, right? And I think that is something that could just have been, rookie sensation stepping up. Hey, You've been doing really good. Your bat's hot. Swing. If you think it's in your zone, swing. But now it might be a little bit more of offseason adjustments. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that drastically improve. From what you said, 4%. Wouldn't be surprised if it's doubled even farther than that, maybe closer to the 10% range in 2023. Wouldn't be surprised any way, shape, or form. All right, last year the Houston Astros won the division. They won the World Series. They were 106-56. It was an incredible season for them. 106 wins in 2022. Did they get to that point in 2023? What's your over/under for the Houston Astros?
I'm going to take the under just because anything over 106 wins is kind of an insane prediction, if you ask me. So I'm going to take the under, but they will win the division, and it won't be close. This is like a machine, right? You mentioned earlier that they may scuffle at the beginning, but it's like a tank who's, kind of got its tread stuck in the mud. Once it gets out of that mud, it's going to run over everything. So that's the Houston Astros for me.
Yep, I'm with you. I think this team is a 100 win team, but I don't know if it's 106. So I'm going to take the under, but not by much. I think this team also is the division winner in the AL West. It's hard to bet against the Houston Astros. What we've seen, they haven't got much worse, if you want to even call it worse. Obviously, losing Verlander is huge, but the additions they've had and all their young talent around with their bats, and obviously what the potential they could have in their rotation could be enough for them to be just better. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them go over 106, but I think it's best to say that they are going to take the under.